And then to make it Alanis Morissette, like she had asked me, she's like, why me for God? And I was like, because I always believed that God would be Canadian.
Hypocrites, charlatans, he has abandoned you to the whim of judgment. Prepare to taste God's wrath. 2 tickets to New Jersey, please.
Welcome, writer, director Kevin Smith, to the Picture House podcast.
How are you? What a pleasure. How long have you been doing the podcast now?
Oh, gosh, I think we've been doing it for about 10 years now.
How many episodes you got?
Oh my God. I mean, we do a lot of podcasts. So we don't just do like weekly or, so we kind of have a monthly one and then we interview as and when,
Right.
so there's
It's
literally
my favorite medium, man. I got into it back in like 2007. And back then there was nobody around. It was like me and there was a guy named Leo Laporte who did a podcast called This Week in Tech. And Adam Curry, who was the guy who created podcasting, the Podfather. But that was it. Like it was before Joe, before Mark Maron, before Nerdist, before anything. Like it was the wasteland, and we used to be in it and stuff. So this is a medium I absolutely adore. The idea that you can have your own radio station.
But talking about going back to 1999, where none of this existed, I mean, I was thinking, God, I cannot believe it's 25 years. But it feels like pondering the 1950s.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
What are your thoughts about going back to 1999? Yeah.
Well, for me, it's like we were out here all year celebrating the 25th anniversary of Dogma, but it was a lie. It was the 26th anniversary of Dogma. But just like the Catholic Church, we stretch our truth just a little bit. So for me, my movies never end. You know what I'm saying? Like for other people, they're like, hey man, Dogma 25 years ago, 6 years ago. For me, I've been interacting with Dogma every month since the movie came out. Like I've got a comic book label, Quick Stops is a comic book I do on Secret Stash Press. I do with Dark Horse Comics. And Quick Stops is the comic. It's like little stories set within the Views universe, all the interconnected movies I did. And issue 3, which comes out, volume 3 that comes out next week, is called Requiem. And it's an Alan issue. And it's about Metatron and Jay and Silent Bob crossing paths again 25 years later and stuff. So in my world, we have film festivals where like Dogma has never gone away. Even when Dogma wasn't publicly available to people, I could still have screenings of it at my movie theater. It's Modcastle Cinemas and whatnot.
What was that about? What happened? Why were you not allowed to screen it? What
well, it's not that I wasn't allowed to screen it. Well, I don't own any of the movies I make. I make a movie and in the day you're desperate to sell it. So that's what we would do. We would sell it. So Miramax, my overall deal was at Miramax. They had made Clerks. Then I went to Universal and made Mallrats. Then I came back and set up an overall deal at Miramax in 1996, and we made Chasing Amy forward. So we did Chasing Amy, that did well. Then we were making Dogma, and there was a bit of consternation because Disney owned Miramax in those days. Same way that Disney owns Marvel now. Before they bought Marvel, they bought Miramax and stuff. They like the awards. Every studio had its own art house division and whatnot. So Disney had told Miramax, like, you can't make this movie. We don't want any trouble from the Catholics and stuff. But Miramax had made a movie with Larry Clark called Kids a couple of years prior. And Disney did the same thing. We were like, hey, man, we don't want anyone seeing this movie. It can't be a Disney movie at all. Harvey Weinstein and Bob Weinstein, who ran Miramax in the day, bought the movie away from Disney and then personally distributed it themselves under a different imprint called Shining Excalibur. And it worked. And they made money. And Disney was like, well, we didn't release it, so all's fair at the end of the day. So there was a model in place, even when Disney was like, don't make this Dogma movie. They made it because I think they assumed we'll do the same thing. If Disney doesn't want us to release it, we'll do what we did with Kids and what they would do later on with Fahrenheit 9/11, Michael Moore's movie. Same thing. They made it. Miramax made it. And then Disney was like, you can't put this out. And then Harvey and Bob personally bought it and released it and made a lot of money. So that was in place. And I think that's why they made it, because they were like, we could always get it back ourselves. And I have no proof about this whatsoever, but I think they never paid for the movie. I honestly don't think they bought it from Disney. I think Disney was like, get rid of it. And Harvey and Bob just took it because they'd been through the experience once with Kids. So they knew what it was. So, but that's neither here nor there. So they picked it up like themselves after Disney was like, get rid of this hot potato of a film. And then they released it theatrically with a very small Canadian company called Lionsgate, which nobody had heard about and stuff, who went on to be very successful. And then they released on home video through Sony, Columbia TriStar in the States. It's different, of course, overseas. So those deals, like the theatrical window deal was only for a year, that lapsed and that was done. The home video deal, I think, was 10 or 15, that lapsed, and then nobody renewed it. And so the DVD was like $200 on eBay, and people were always hitting me up like, man, how come I can't get it cheap? And so I would be writing the folks at the Weinstein Company. I left the Weinstein Company after Zack and Miri 2008. So I was with Miramax, then I made the jump to the Weinstein Company. Then after Zack and Miri, I was like, fuck this. So I took off. But every year I would write Harvey and Bob, be like, hey man, Dogma anniversary coming up. People still ask me about the DVD. Like, can we renew that deal with Sony? Whatever the fuck. Never heard back. They didn't care. They were on to doing other things like making The Artist and shit, winning awards and whatnot. I was just a thing of the past. Then, I don't know if you know this or not, Harvey Weinstein got in trouble. So he goes to jail. And I saw an opportunity because I was like, he's going to need money. So I wrote a very heartfelt letter to a convicted rapist and said, hey, man, you've made a lot of movies. I've only made a few. This one, Dogma, is tied in with my childhood faith, with my father, who's no longer alive and stuff. So please, man, sell me the movie. You're not doing anything with it. You haven't done anything with it in 10 fucking years or more. Please sell me the movie. I offer 250 grand. Heard back from his lawyer, not from him because he was in jail. And his lawyer said no. So then I wrote another letter, heartfelt letter, offered 500 grand, which would have been me liquidating my comic book store, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, which we've had for almost 30 years. Would have been me taking a second mortgage on the house. Got back another letter, no. So at that point, I'm not a rich guy. I'm tapped out and stuff. But I reached out to some folks who would have a vested interest in seeing Dogma go forward, have more life or whatnot. People with money, I called Ben and Matt. Then I was able to write Harvey a third letter and say, hey, man, we could offer you $1 million. And his lawyer still said no. So that was it. I tried, couldn't get the movie back. Was hoping to get it back for its 20th, hoping to get it back for its 25th, nothing. Then one day I get a call from these kids, Alessandra and Bay. They run not a studio or production company, but an investment fund, a hedge fund or whatever. This hedge fund had bought a tranche of movies from Harvey Weinstein. And so the phone call, they were like, hey, we own Dogma. Would you like to talk about it? I was like, what do you mean you own Dogma? So I went and met with them, and they told me the story. They bought a tranche of films. He had to divest himself of everything he had because he's still fighting legal battles. So he sold this tranche of films, 10 movies. Fahrenheit 9/11 was in there. Larry Clark's Kids was in there. 7 karate movies were in there. I guess he was going to do with Quentin in the wake of Kill Bill, and Dogma. So they were going through their tranche of movies that they bought for like $5 million. And they were like, oh my God, Ben Affleck's in this movie. And they didn't even know what they fucking had, man. So they were like, I said, can I buy it off you? They said, absolutely not. So they said, but we'll let you fuck with it. You want to take it out? You want to make sequels? I said, fuck yeah. So I don't own it. I never got to own it again and stuff, but that don't matter. I got to take it out and tour it like for 20 dates. And now I've been working on a follow-up. It's tough to call it a sequel because it's not like they're all back, you know, in the name of the Lord. But it will be like a pretty interesting companion piece. Dogma was a movie steeped in faith. The kid who wrote it and directed it believes in all that shit. The kid who's no longer a kid, the 55-year-old man who's writing the Dogma follow-up, is no longer steeped in that faith, man, and doesn't believe any of that stuff. So it's being written from a completely different perspective. And I wish I still had my childhood faith, man. I miss it from time to time. I went crazy a couple years ago, man. They put me in a fucking loony bin. And I honestly don't think that would have happened if I had my faith still, you know, because when I had my faith, you got no problems. You know, you're like, JC, take the fucking wheel. So you're not like, you know, how do I figure this out? When you realize that it's just you and that we're alone in this fucking world, like life's you pretty fucking hard. You can't just hand the wheel to JC if there is no JC. And so eventually the cracks, you know, popped up and fucking I wound up in a place. So I miss my childhood faith, man. It meant a great deal to me. When you watch Dogma, you could see it. Dogma is a child's prayer. That's young Kevin Smith going like, this is what I see my faith as. I was dragged to church my whole life. I was an altar boy for 12 years. and I would watch people at church. Nobody celebrated their faith. They all fucking mourned it and stuff. So Dogma, I realized when I was on tour with it for the last few months, like from April to May, I was sitting there going, oh my God, this is what young Kevin Smith thought church could be like. Entertaining with some anal jokes in it to keep your attention.
God's decreed that I'm to charge you with a holy crusade. Stop a couple of angels from re-entering heaven.
We're going home.
If they get in, they'll unmake the world.
Right. So how do I know you're an angel?
As I was saying,
Kevin, I just want to say to you as well how much it stayed with me when I watched it, especially seeing Alanis Morissette as God. That was really quite life-changing. And
oh my God, seriously?
Yeah, because as a woman,
it was so sweet, man. Oh, well, that's right. As a female God. Well, I see, to me, and I guess in '99 that was kind of like what, but my whole world has always been ruled by women. Like, I was my mother's child, and I have been my wife's husband for a long time, and every girlfriend I ever had ruled my world. So to me, it was not like, hey man, what an out there notion, God as a woman. Like, just made sense. And then to make it Alanis Morissette, like, she had asked me, she's like, why me for God? And I was like, because I always believed that God would be Canadian. And so she went for the role. But yeah, I guess in retrospect, like, I've been living with that for so long, it never occurs to me as like any big deal. But I guess at the time, for some people, they'd be like, oh my God, God's always a guy. How awesome.
It was incredibly, but also her message, which really stays with me today, is, and I don't want to sort of reveal the very last moment of the film where, Bethany asks her question and then
right.
gives her
the
answer.
Even her headstand, like, which Alanis was like, can I do a headstand? And I was like, absolutely. And the first time she did it, she didn't have underwear. I was like, perhaps we put some boxers on you. And so we put boxers on her and she did it again. So it was like that notion of God, not, the stern patrician, but just,
well, for me,
joyful.
Like it was very Bill Hicks. It was like its energy experiencing itself. And I was just like,
oh, wow. What a great poll, man. What a wonderful poll. Nobody polls Bill Hicks anymore, but to pull him this early in the morning, that was cool, man. When we talk about the dead, we bring them back for a second. And you just invoked Bill Hicks. That's a cool thing.
Oh, it's made me go quite goosebumpy actually talking.
One of my favorite fucking jokes about religion is Bill Hicks talking about, like, mummy, a goldfish left licking logs in me sock drawer. And that's the story of Jesus.
There was no one like
absolute.
Talking of people, there was no one like Alan Rickman, Metatron. Oh my God,
I was a massive massive fan of Alan's from the moment I saw him in Die Hard. Ironically, the movie theater that I own today with my friends, Smodcastle Cinemas. It used to be called the Atlantic Highlands Twin Cinema. And I went to see Die Hard. And I went to see Bruce Willis because I was a big Moonlighting fan. But I came out of that theater going, who the fuck is the other guy? And I became a massive Alan Rickman fan. I would watch anything I could get my hands on and stuff, not just like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, but he did this wonderful two-hander with Madeline Stowe called Closet Land years ago, Prisoner of Conscience movie that was like not sponsored by, but like given the thumbs up by Amnesty International, where he plays a guy who has a woman who doesn't know why she's being imprisoned and why she's being interrogated. And he is the interrogator. Brilliant movie. He does a bunch of different characters. He's terrifying. You got to look for this fucker. I would watch that. I would watch The January Man, where he had tiny part in that movie. Anything I could get my hands on. I just loved his style. I loved Rickman. So when we were getting close to making Dogma, John Gordon, who was our exec at Miramax at the time, he calls up and he goes, you'll never believe who came in today for a general meeting. I said, who? He goes, Alan Rickman. I said, Hans fucking Gruber was in the Miramax building. Did he blow it up or what? And I said, what was he there for? And he goes, he's there. We were trying to talk him into doing this Merchant Ivory movie. I was like, is he going to do it? And he goes, I don't know. Because all he wanted to talk about was whoever directed Chasing Amy. I was like, I directed Chasing Amy. He's like, bro, he loves the movie and he wants to know what you're doing next. Like, that's all he wanted to talk about. And I was like, what if we sent him the script for Dogma, man? He'd be an amazing Metatron. And John Gordon was like, we should. So we sent Alan the script, and shy of Jason Mewes, The fastest yes I've ever gotten from an actor in my entire career was Alan Rickman. He received the script 2 hours after he received it. He called and said, I'm in. Not only did he say, I'm in, he was helpful from the jump. He was like, who's playing God? And I was like, well, we wanted Holly Hunter to do it. I wrote it for Holly Hunter. That's why the piano joke's in the movie. But she had just done Danny Boyle's movie, A Life Less Ordinary, and she played an avenging angel. So she's like, I don't want to play another supernatural character. I said, so we're fucking godless, Alan. And Alan's like, well, my friend would be into it. She's really funny. I said, who's your friend? He goes, Emma Thompson. And I was like, do you have any more fucking friends you want to bring to the show? Fuck yes, Nepo baby. Bring everybody, man. And so for about 2 weeks, we had Emma Thompson in our movie as God. There is a sizzle reel, they call it, that they took to like Show West that, has like, it's made up of footage from other movies. A lot of it was from an angel movie they made called The Prophecy. And the voiceover is just like, angels carry automatic weapons and the Holy Land has moved to New Jersey. Dogma. And then they would do the names of everyone in the cast. And at the very end, it says, and Emma Thompson as God, So for a while, we had Emma Thompson. Then Emma Thompson wrote me this really nice letter on Emma Thompson's stationery, had a little cartoon elephant on it and her name in blocks, like children's blocks. And she said, Kevin, I was looking forward to doing Dogma, hanging out with you and Alan. But I'm going to have to pull out of the movie. I've decided to stay in England and try to finally have a baby. So have a good time. You'll love Alan, blah, blah, blah. I was doing an interview and somebody was like, Emma Thompson's in your movie. I said, she was, but she dropped out because she's going to stay in England, try to have a baby and stuff. So we're going to find another God. Then I got another letter from Emma Thompson, not nearly as nice, going, stop fucking telling people I'm trying to have a baby. I opened up my door. There were 50 paparazzi out in front of it yesterday because you're shooting your mouth off. And so I told Alan, I was like, I think I pissed off your friend. He goes, she'll get over it.
You're kidding.
Holy the whole of existence is in jeopardy right now. You're the one who's gonna help change that. Women's bodies are all fucking business.
I've watched the movie again and again this year because we toured it and they released it in 4DX where the chair moves and stuff like that. So it's an interactive experience. So I've gotten to ingest Dogma deeply over the course of the last year, more than I have for the previous 19 years and stuff. And he is absolutely delightful. He is the soul of that movie. He treated that movie so seriously, more seriously than me. And I was treating it super seriously. This was the faith of my father, the faith of my mother. This movie was just vastly important to me. That being said, Alan made it even more important to him. And he became a friend, which is the weirdest fucking thing, to go from admiring a guy's work and being like, he's one of my favorite actors, to him calling you up. Whenever I was in England doing a show, or I was doing a show at the O2, and he called me up and he's like, Kevin, you're in my town. I'm going to take you out to lunch. And if he was ever in my town, he'd call me up and be like, Kevin, I'm in your town. You're taking me out to lunch. And then whenever I did a show, he'd be like, I want to go. So he was like, I want to go to your O2 show. And I was like, everybody there is going to know you, man. And he goes, why do you think I want to go? I said, I didn't think you were that kind of actor. He goes, we're all that kind of actor. And shit. And I'll never forget being on stage and seeing him in the audience with people coming over and taking selfies, getting shit signed. He absolutely loved it. So after the show, I went long. And, if you're out there at this point, I don't know if it's still the case. The tubes at a certain point cut off, so you couldn't get back from the O2 into London, past midnight or some such shit. And I went very late. So he couldn't catch a tube back with his lady Rima. So I was like, well, jump in the car with us. We got a car service. So we're driving back to London, man. And is one of my favorite deliveries. I said, Alan, what'd you think of the show? And he goes, you're very amusing, Kevin. And that just did everything for me. So I was like, well, you heard what I've been up to for the last 2 fucking hours. I said, what you been up to? And he's like, well, I finally bought an apartment in New York. And he'd been doing a lot of Broadway. He'd done Separate Lives or Past Lives. I forget. I think it was Separate Lives. No, Past Lives, where he was one half of the lead. Him and who was it? Lindsay. I forget who was the other lead. But it was a two-hander, wonderful show. Then he came back and he directed a play called I Am Rachel Corrie, very moving and stuff. So he'd been spending a lot of time in Manhattan, but he was always staying in hotels and shit. So he's proud that he bought a house. I was like, congrats, man. That's awesome. And he bought an apartment. I said, congrats. He goes, I don't know if congratulations are in order. He's like, I bought the apartment in the same building as my friend. I was like, well, I think that's a good thing, no? And he goes, my friend is Ray Fiennes. And I was like, well, quit bragging. And he goes, no, Kevin, you don't understand. He goes, if the Harry Potter fans ever find out that Voldemort and Snape live in the same building, they'll bring it down. And I was like, he was absolutely delightful, man. And like
I know that he made Jay Myers. Well,
he called Jay. He said, he called him an American icon. He said, Jason Mewes is the best that America.
Sorry, Jason Mewes. Sorry.
Which is so lovely. Yeah, he did zero in on Jay. He was very just fascinated by him and touched by their relationship and whatnot. He was such a good guy, man. Died in the boat. Like, very rarely do you get to work with somebody who's so exceptional at what they do. And this was a true, absolute maestro, virtuoso, who lent us that incredible ability and talent and validated our movie because of it. Still to this day, I get more credit than I'm probably due because Alan's in that movie. So not only was it great meeting the guy whose work I love, but it turned out to be a friend as well.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you today.
Means the world, man. I could talk movies with you anytime. You're doing the Lord's work, doing a film podcast. Stay away from that politics shit. Movies.
Fill them pews, people. Hook them while they're young.
Kind of like the tobacco industry.
Christ, if only we had their numbers.
Snoogans.
Thank you for watching Picture House Cinema's unique video content. Hit the subscribe button to be kept up to date with our movie news, cast and crew interviews, highlights, trailers, and lots more.